just want to dissect this game a little bit more. I want to focus a little bit on Mac. It's one thing to make the mistakes, miss some reads, miss some throws, do some
Yeah.
stuff, and again, the thing that I always concerns me the most is I just I don't know if it's gotten worse as the season has gone on. I'm just not seeing him drilling the ball down anywhere ever. I was, just texting with a group of people like, I don't care if Mac throws the next pass to a Dolphin. I just want to see some friggin' RPMs on it. Like, I know it's not the most important thing, but
Yeah.
he's just tossing. He's just lobbing lollipops all over the field right now. And I'm not sure what throws he's not attempting to make because he's afraid he can't get the ball there or not. But it seems more of an issue, and it could just be in my head, this last stretch here, these last few games, than it was other parts of the season where, yeah, he's not a high velocity sort of guy, but every once in a while you'd see him step back and drill a throw, and you'd be like, okay, it's in the bag. I'm not seeing it at all right now. Everything is just this lollipop balloon over the coverage, trying to drop it into somebody.
Yeah, look, I think that that's been a concern of his since the draft
Of
process. Now,
course.
am I overly concerned about his ability to drive the ball down the field? Not overly concerned. Look, I think the throw to Nelson Aguilar along the sideline, he makes a far hash throw over the first level in front of the cover three defender. I think it was cover three. The broadcast said it was cover two, but whatever. I'll see it on the tape. But regardless, that type of throw, the one to Aguilar along the sideline where he does reach it from the far hash, that takes some velocity, right? You don't get it all the way out there without having some zip.
Yep.
And I thought that throw in particular showed a little bit of trust in his arm too, because he does have the defender underneath Aguilar there. And if he doesn't believe that he has that ability to throw that football across the field like that, then he doesn't pull the trigger on a pass like that. Now, the area of the field that I think that maybe it becomes more of an issue, because he can put some air under it to get it to the sideline and really kind of arc it a little bit more to get to the sideline and not be in danger of overthrowing the receiver into an interception. The area that I'd be more concerned about the arm strength is down the middle of the field. And I
Right.
don't mean the short middle. I mean like past 10, 15 yards and accessing the area between the deep safeties if it's two, or in front of the deep safety if it's one. I haven't seen the Patriots have a whole lot of ability to really access the deep middle of the field. And I think when you look at their personnel, especially when you look at a guy like Hunter Henry and their tight ends, their ability to stress middle of the field coverage, then hopefully run Aguilar on like a deep post or a deep over route or something like that into that part of the field would be a nice area to be able to attack. So if that's a long way of saying that I don't think it's completely what's holding their offense back, but I do think that it is something that they have to manage
It
around.
limits the playbook, and
Yeah.
he's clearly being managed on what they're trying to do, and it's frustrating to watch for some people because 'cause they're like, "Why aren't they doing this?" And
Right.
it is, I think, in large part by design, because there's some throws you're just not going to call on him to make. So
Yeah.
there's certain concepts and certain plays you're just not going to run, in this offense, so you end up with a lot of what you end up here. And again, I don't know, this is one of those tough ones where you have to go see the tape in terms of separation, and is he missing guys?
Yeah.
So again, this is always hard to evaluate until Tuesday, when we can look at some film and say, oh yeah, it is what it is. So just a thing with Mac in general. It's you were hoping to see more progress throughout the season, and I don't know that we did.
Yeah, I think that progress is an interesting question, because to me, I know this is really cliche, but the development's not always linear, right? You're not always gonna. He's not
You're
gonna
right,
be
exactly.
improving,
Each game
improving,
is better
improving.
than the last, right?
Right. Yeah. It's not always going to work like that. There's going to be two steps forward, one step back with a young quarterback. And I think there was a lot of really good things that I take away from this game from Mac, like the 35-yarder Hunter Henry early in the game where he sidesteps the blitzer, allows Damian Harris to block the blitz, and then kind of steps up and around in the pocket and throws to Hunter Henry on the crossing route. And then he's got the Nelson Aguilar throw I was talking about to the far hash deep hole. And then you talk about throws, to Jacoby Myers on fades and Hunter Henry on deep corners and things down the field. I thought in this game he threw the ball down the field a little bit more honestly than what he did last week, and I'm sure
Sure.
the passing chart would probably reflect that. I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 attempts of over 20 yards
Yeah, I
or
mean,
right on
look, you
that
had
line.
two to Myers, one to Henry. I mean, they when they got down, he made some throws.
Yeah. So I think that you look at some of the opportunities when they do create separation down the field, like that Jacoby Myers fade on Xavier Howard. That's a perfect example of, okay, that was a really good, uh, that was a really good play all around, right? It wasn't the best throw ever, but at least he put it in a catchable spot and Myers makes a good catch on the football. That's what you want to see more and more of that from the Patriots. And whether that's bringing in receivers that can create separation and do more down the field than what they currently have, or the guys that they have improving and all progressing together as a result of Mac Jones being around more and being more experienced in the system. I think that that is something that I hope that this team will come to fruition down the road. I really don't. I'm not overly concerned about the arm strength. What I'm more concerned about is how are they going to build the offensive weapons in the roster around Mac Jones as we move forward, and are they going to get guys in here that can just take advantage of what the skills he has, right? I think when you look at this team, Jacoby Myers is a really nice piece. He's a good story. He's not a number one guy, and he's their most targeted receiver almost every single week. And the Patriots don't have a Wes Welker or a Julian Edelman or a Troy Brown or a Deion Branch as somebody that can truly be a 1,000-yard
What's
receiver
funny is
and an eater in the slot.
you may need that more than you need the outside downfield threat guy.
Yeah,
You might need that guy who can operate the middle of the field. Like right now, if you're looking at somebody this offseason you want the Patriots to target, you should be looking at Hunter Renfro.
right.
You need a guy like that
Yeah,
to fit Mac's skill set more
yeah,
so than that. And when we're talking about making these throws downfield, again, they're still like kind of lollipop throws he's making out there. He's just making them with really great touch. That the Jacoby pass was a terrific pass.
yeah.
He's just not going to step up and just rifle balls down the middle of the field. So you're right. Getting guys who can operate in those short spaces, I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
make much more sense.
I've
You
been
know,
calling for it for weeks now. The fact of the matter is that the Patriots have a quarterback who, in a lot of ways, it was a lot like when Brady was younger. I don't know if Mac is ever going to come close to taking that next leap that Brady ended up taking in the 06, 07 seasons, in that range. But what Mac is good at is getting the ball out accurately, getting the ball out on time, hitting receivers on the move and allowing them to run with the football and basically hitting them with their momentum down the field. And they don't have right now an elite, besides maybe Kendrick Bourne, who's blossomed into a really good yak receiver and yards after the catch type of guy. They don't really have that guy. And I went back and looked at Julian Edelman and Wes Welker and their yak numbers, and they were insane in that phase. Like Welker in his prime with the Patriots from like '07 to 2011 is averaging 5.5 yards after catch per reception. That's insane, right? I mean, Deebo Samuel this year leads the league in yak at 9 yards per reception. So you talk about these types of players. That's what the Patriots need. They need somebody that Matt can hit on a 3-step slant and have that guy take a 7-yard pass and turn it into a 40-yard gain. They don't have that player.
like who Nikhil was supposed to be.
Right. They don't have that player right now. And I do think that that's really a reason why their offense in passing offense has some limitations as well. But look, outside of the mistakes, I thought their passing offense today did enough. And I know that sounds like putting lipstick on a pig, but outside of the pick six and the aborted snap, I mean, they threw the ball for 260 plus yards. They moved the ball pretty well, based off of the possession charts and stuff like that outside of that first drive. And really, the bigger issue that I found in this game was just those two mistakes are fatal errors that they just can't overcome right now, and they can't have that from the quarterback.
No, you can't have it. You have to play a near perfect game. You have to play a clean game. And so it has to start with Mac. And that's the problem, is the one step forward, one step back situation is, we've had periods of time here where we've thought, put put it on the kid's shoulders, throughout the
Yeah.
course of the season. Let's see what he can do. Let's open up the playbook a little bit and stop with the kid gloves. We think that cost them some games earlier in the year. And then he has games where it's like, oh, well, yeah, you know, he may not be fully ready yet. So I understand the management, of the situation to a point. They look at each game, run the ball, control possession,
Right.
eliminate mistakes, win the game, and then you have, pick sixes in this game. And then obviously the Colts game, right?
Yes.
The Colts. And you get down 2 scores like
Yeah.
that.
Well, no, the Colts game, they had the block punt. That
The
was the
block punt.
touchdown.
That's what it
Yeah,
was.
he
That's what
had
it
the
was. The block
he
punt.
had the interception in the red zone, which was a killer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, the block punt score,
You're right.
and you get down early, and then the whole game plan blows apart. So they just can't. I mean, this, but whether it's the special teams or Mac, dropping the ball today, throwing that pick six, can't have those.
I've been
Uh,
back and forth on the Mac thing all year. It's a chicken or the egg
It
argument,
is. It is. You
right?
want to see it. You know what? You would want to see it more. The problem with the Patriots is they ended up winning and got competitive. And
Yeah.
then it became about stacking W's. Where if this were a team that was 5 and, whatever, you could make a case for just let the kid sling it, take his lumps this year, and
Right.
then be ready, be more battle tested for next year. But because they were putting wins together and at one point looked like they were in the driver's seat for the division, you wanted to continue managing games to stack up the W's. At the end of the day, when you look at the schedule, I mean, there's really not, outside of the Chargers and the Bills under extreme circumstances, there's really not a quality win over a quality opponent in there. Tennessee was missing its entire offense in that game. Obviously, that's a good opponent, but Bills, Panthers, Falcons, Jets twice, Houston, Jacksonville. Patriots definitely had the fortune of a really, really, really favorable schedule and caught teams at exactly the right times. So a weird year for that. But go ahead, Evan. You're saying you've been back and forth on the Max stuff.
Yeah, it's a chicken or the egg thing, right? Is the lack of downfield explosiveness in their offense a Mac Jones problem, or is it a Patriots problem?
Right.
Right? Is it the receivers? Is it the system? All those things. Because outside, and look, Brandon Cooks had 1,000-yard season here. He was good in that downfield role. But even watching that season, if you guys remember it, it never felt like a great fit. It always kind of felt like he was round hole square peg, and they were making it work because he was a talented receiver, but it never felt like it was operating at all cylinders. Randy Moss is the only other guy that's ever been a true downfield guy in this offense. Everybody else that they put in that role has either struggled or been average to mediocre and is basically clearing out the entire game, right? Just running up the field to take safety coverage with him or whatever. And that's all well and good. I mean, there's a reason for that, and the system itself, there's a reason for all these things and all these decisions that they make. But is the lack of downfield explosiveness a Mac Jones problem? Is it an offense problem? Is it a skill player problem? It's probably a little bit of all of it. I think I'd rank Mac towards the bottom, honestly, and say that he's probably the least of the problems out of all of those. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because one play or one or three or four plays, I can say, oh wow, there's nobody open. But I'm sure I could watch a lot of tape around the NFL and find 3 or 4 plays a game where nobody's open. Right, the defensive players get played too, and I don't know. It's really a tough one to figure out. I get this question all the time. I ask myself the question all the time, and it's really hard to put your finger or pinpoint it as, is it a separation issue? Is it a system issue? Is it a quarterback issue? Because it's probably everything. And I know
I
that.
think it's a little of everything.
Yeah.
I actually, in terms of confidence going forward, critical of Mac right now and showing level of concern is really more about not expectations of a rookie quarterback. It's
Right.
really over everything about Mac is about ceiling. Okay. What are you expecting the Patriots, even in perfect circumstances, even if they got a home game in the playoffs, maybe win one game in the playoffs? Like, this isn't a team that's going on a deep playoff run. It's not. So anything right now is gravy in terms of, getting to extend your season and play for something meaningful. Great. In year one of a rookie quarterback, awesome. Every conversation about Mac is about ceiling. So when you
Yeah.
see him, you want to see him do the things you expect from your franchise quarterback and a guy who's going to be the guy calling signals
Yeah.
for 10 plus years. So when we talk about arm strength, you're thinking, okay, that could be a problem if he's going to have this, if
Yeah.
this is as
Look,
good as it gets. If
that,
you're talking, yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no, no, but so that's when we're looking at that, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, is this going to improve as he gets better? He gets an NFL body a little bit more, so
Right.
he's in the program. You did see Brady, his arm got stronger as time went on. You see Burrow. Burrow is definitely throwing the ball with a lot more zip. When he came out of college, this wasn't a guy who they thought was a, prototypical big armed, yada, yada, So, uh, that's what you want to see with Mac, and you want to see progression. You want to see things that give you hope that he's going to be something great. And there's moments where you're like, this guy could be special. And then there's moments where you're like, I mean, I was on with, we did a podcast with Greg
Yeah.
Bedard, and this, knocked me back, and agree with it or don't agree with it. But initially he had his ceiling as Drew Brees and his floor as Kirk Cousins. And after watching for a full year, he's like, I might have to amend my floor. And he had his floor as Matt Castle. Okay.
Oh,
That's a low floor.
yeah. That's maybe a little too low for me.
That's a little too low.
Greg,
But
Greg likes to get a little spicy sometimes.
he
So
does. And I'm not saying that. And everyone's going to start killing Greg in the chat now. And I'm
yeah,
not doing this to divert criticism from us
yeah,
over to Greg. That's a really low floor. But I do think Kirk Cousins would be a high floor. That's a
yeah.
highly functioning starting quarterback, albeit not one that you necessarily think is going to, take you to a Super Bowl on the strength of it, on his shoulders alone. But that's really it. Everything about Mac is you're looking, projecting 2 and 3 and 4 years into the future,
Right.
not judging him in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it because I think a lot of people get aggravated with the coverage of Mac Jones and they say he's only a rookie. We won 10 games with
Right.
him. We made the playoffs.
That's not what we're
as a
talking
rookie.
about.
That's
Right.
not what we're talking about. Exactly. We are talking about the fact that, okay, we have now seen 17 full games of Mac Jones as a starting quarterback in the NFL. That is a lot of games. He's no longer a rookie. He's now heading into his second season, most, from a most part. And you look at it from a 17 game sample, and I think you can really start to understand what is his ceiling. What is he going to be down the road? Now there are going to be times where he's going to make some really quicker, faster decisions or better decisions from a mental standpoint because he has more reps and he's seen more things and he gets more experience and all those types of things. But physically, where is that ceiling? I'm not sure. When I talk about floors, I think Matt Castle's way too low. But besides that, when I talk about floors, I would look at a floor more like on the prism of maybe Jimmy G, right? As somebody
That's
that
exactly what I think.
you're carrying
Yeah.
for the most part, but he still can make some plays for you situationally. Jimmy G's been great on third down and in the red zone his entire career. Now Kyle Shanahan's great at scheming third down and red zone. That's really when the coaches get to flex a little bit in those situations. In the chat saying Andy Dalton made multiple Pro Bowls, right? I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. I just it's certainly in the ballpark of an Andy Dalton, right? Would be we're talking about floor, but yeah, when we have these conversations, it's not a look. He had a great rookie year. I had a article out last week where I made a pitch for him to be rookie of the year. Right? I mean, he had a great rookie season. There's no
Sure.
doubt about that. The question is,
At worst, he finishes second, behind Chase, and that's it. Right.
And the question is can he take a next step to the point where he's not making these types of mistakes like on the pick six, and he's actually carrying the Patriots to wins, not shrinking them in these games? Can we get to that point with Mac Jones?
Right.
Year two is a big year for him. I'm not saying they're going to give up on him after 2 seasons. That's not what I'm suggesting. But year two is a big year from him to see if he's going to take that next step. And what is that next developmental step for Mac Jones? That's, I think, a really tough question to answer right now.
It is. And so, again, that's, as we said throughout the season, you made a really good point. It's nonlinear. It's year
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's going to be ups and downs. You're not, oh, better this, but you would have liked to see it maybe in quarter polls,
Yeah.
or a second half clearly better than the first. There were some things you saw that we really liked in early. All I know is over the last few weeks, and again, you throw out Jacksonville because it's Jacksonville, and then again, Jacksonville pulled the stunner of the year this year.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't throw that game completely out, but those 3 or 4 losses losses. The second half against the Colts, I liked what I saw a lot,
Yeah.
maybe more so than anything in recent that he'd done in the 3, 4, 5 weeks prior. I was really bullish on Mac after that one. But the last couple with the Bills and then this game, I thought were pretty weak. So
Yeah.
um, that's
I
where
don't
we,
even think that that's the biggest issue with the team,
and
honestly.
it's not. What's funny
The
is
pick six was bad, but
the
outside of that, I really don't think that that's the biggest issue with the team.
it's not. It's that the reason we're talking about that is actually, in a strange way, Mac is the person I'm hanging more hope on to all of a sudden, if you support the Patriots, you follow the Patriots. I actually think Mac is the only one who could maybe save you because
Yeah,
you know who the other people are. We were waiting to see whether Mac's game would take a leap.
yeah,
And all of a sudden he'd start to do things and win things for you. And I don't think he's there yet. Doesn't mean he won't be. But again, when we judge him, I think Mac is probably the thing you have to feel best about
yeah,
on this team and certainly this offense. I everyone's going to talk about who do you throw to. I mean, I think as the season continues to go on, I don't think it's just scheme and I don't think it's whatever. I think the weapons ended up being trash. I think you got a couple gadget players. You got Bourne who does a nice thing or two and Myers who's reliable, but there's just not enough talent everywhere.